I'm Johnny, the BDM here at Prodo, and my role is typically to explore digital strategies with businesses and understand where HubSpot fits in. But today, I'm your host for the latest hug. Now, normally with a hug, we choose a couple of areas of HubSpot to discuss where listeners can take away some form of learning and how you can implement these as part of your digital strategy. But today, Christmas is right around the corner, so we've decided to treat you guys with not just one or two, but 12 HubSpot hacks. I'm pleased to be joined by my colleague, Sam. Sam, do you want to go a quick intro about yourself and what we'll be discussing today?
Yeah, sure. Cheers for that, Johnny. So I'm Samuel Banks. I work on the technical team at Prodo. Within that, I'm a technical digital strategist. What that means is I help clients grow with their HubSpot subscriptions, make sure they make the most of it, and ultimately from this hug, start 2022 off in the right way.
Sweet. Thanks, Sam. Finally, at the end, you will get a chance to ask any questions you might have on the 12 hacks or anything HubSpot related. Please feel free to drop them in the chat panel throughout the session and we'll pick them up at the end. Now, just before we get started, I thought it'd be useful for anyone who hasn't attended one of these hugs before to know a little bit more about Prodo. Now, we're a full-service digital agency that have been around since 1998. We're a HubSpot Diamond and a Braco Gold partner, and we're the only agency to hold both of these statuses. Now, outside of HubSpot, we work on numerous website and portal builds, as well as building innovative technologies for a variety of sectors. But for the last 6 years, though, we have been a HubSpot partner. We are currently at Diamond status, and we have a range of solutions we can provide from onboarding, integrations, inbound marketing campaigns, CMS development, and much more. Now, last year, we ranked third in EMEA for Customer First Award, which is based on our customer length and adoption, something that we're very proud of. And we have ran this Liverpool hug for the last 3 years, and we share a topic in each hug for the audience so you can learn more about the HubSpot system and take away and implement or improve upon. Now, if you've missed any of our webinars, don't worry, you can visit our video hub and catch up on some great learnings from closed loop reporting through to account-based marketing, chatbots, lead scoring, and more. Now, don't worry about taking any notes today as well. We're recording today's session. All you have to do is head to prodo.com/hug to fill out a form, and we'll send an email with an on-demand link with a copy of all of today's slides. Now, throughout today, we're going to be spreading the festive fun, and we're going to be doing a faster finger first quiz throughout today's session. So keep your eyes open for a slide that looks like this one. Slide, you can start putting in your answers into the chat panel. Whoever answers correctly and the fastest will win some HubSpot swag. So now I will pass you over to Sam, who will take you through the 12 hacks. Now, the hacks will get progressively harder throughout, so make sure you stick around to the very end. Right, Sam, do you want to take it away?
I sure do. Cheers for that, Johnny. So, yeah, I guess this is the last hug of the year. We wanted to end this one in a very festive manner and ultimately tie together everything that we've gone over the last year. So as part of the work that we do at Prodo, we do a lot of portal audits. We find a lot of common patterns, common areas where people may not be making the most of the tools within their subscription. So with that said, let's get into it and let's look at 12 different ways you can revolutionize going into 2022. So on the first day of Christmas, Prodo gave to me, and that was the campaign tool. So what the campaign tool is in HubSpot is everybody's aware of dashboards, everybody's aware of reports, everybody's aware of how to report. Now, what we often find in HubSpot is that the campaigns tool gets a bit of kind of neglect. It's not used in the best ways, or it's not standardized in how people approach it. The campaigns tool can be found within your marketing section of your subscription, and it's great for understanding how individual marketing campaigns that you may have done contribute towards the bigger picture. Because it's important to know that ultimately, if you're hitting your top KPIs, how each campaign is actually contributing towards that. So the campaign tool, in a nutshell, allows you to keep everything in one singular place and understand the attribution towards the top level of your portal. Not only that, but it allows you to keep a lot of tasks and collaboration in one singular place, allowing you to tie together your social posts, your landing pages, your CTAs, any emails, all in one central place, and understanding how them different assets ultimately deliver towards the top level goal. Not only that, but within the campaigns tool, as you'll see from the screenshot we've got on the actual slide, you've got a performance section where you can see how many sessions that campaign may have actually contributed towards, how many new contacts it brought in, so contacts you didn't yet know prior to doing that campaign, as well as how many influence contacts. That's contacts you may have known prior to launching the campaign, but contacts that have engaged with assets within it. This is really powerful for any kind of agency or in-house business organization, because it allows you to understand not only what you're doing, but what you're doing well, or what campaigns got better traction, especially if you're going down an organic focus as well. What you'll also know is you can create tasks that link back to a campaign. So you can use parts of HubSpot as a somewhat project management tool to ensure that if you're producing 9 blogs for that particular campaign, if they've been socially shared on your social channels or within HubSpot itself. So it allows you to collaborate on a much better and easier scale. So again, allows you to manage all your marketing channels from one singular central place. Hack number 2. So there we're going to be talking more about subscription types. Now, if you're like me, you're a marketer, you're probably aware of subscription types, what they are, and ultimately what they do. Now, in HubSpot, what we often find is that people tend to stick to the very generic HubSpot ones, which is marketing information, service, and one-to-one subscriptions, which is great. It covers the broad areas of the business. It covers the different communication streams. But ultimately, what you can actually do is create customized subscriptions based on the different types of communication you may be sending. So in this case, you could actually drill down your customer service comms into much more refined pots to maximize your email marketing KPIs, to make sure that not only are people opted into the right lists and the subscriptions, but ultimately you have the right legal basis to communicate as well. By doing this, it allows you to send emails and then look back on your emails to see how they performed by different subscription levels, to understand if a subscription list had better performance in comparison to another, rather than just sending it all within marketing information. So a typical example of how Prodo use this is we may have customer service announcements, which is announcements to clients and customers, but then we've also got separate subscriptions for aspects such as renewals, where the content might be different, but it's a different way we're communicating as well. It allows us to have a better oversight over our GDPR compliance, but also maximizing the relevancy that what people are opting to is what they're going to get, rather than having really generalized buckets for email marketing. Hack number 3. So we're going to be moving on to progressive profiling. So if you're not aware of progressive profiling, what progressive profiling necessarily corresponds to is forms. If you're like me, you've probably used forms in your HubSpot instance to use for data or lead capture and to standardize the way that data comes into your CRM. If not, it's a great way to get started in terms of making sure you've got HubSpot forms or integrated forms that are speaking to your database. Now, how you can take that a step further is by looking at progressive profiling. Now, time after time after time, we see more portals utilizing forms, but they're not built in a dynamic way, meaning that if someone's already filled in the first form and then comes to reconvert on another content piece, it's not going to ask for any more information. It's going to ask for the same information they've already inputted, meaning that that second conversion isn't asking for anything of new or of a value that you can then leverage. What progressive profiling allows you to do is build logic into your forms, which basically queues fields to ask for if we already know previous fields. So a good example of this is you may have a low intent form where it's asking for the first name, the last name, and the email. But if we already know their first name, last name, and email, we may choose to replace their email with maybe a phone number. Or if we're asking for a location, we may make that progressive. So if we know their location, ask for their state or region. So we can start doing more geographical and regional targeting as well within our marketing, within our sales, within our ABM, so on and so forth. What this allows you to do is it allows you to ask a lot of the right questions at the right time, whilst aligning your form fields with every different stage of the buyer's journey. This allows you to improve your conversion rate as well as the overall user experience. Where we find the most value in doing this, in terms of getting this set up, is it really shortens down the days to close from a sales perspective. So when you're looking at the overall funnel for a contact, by having less amount of forms, individual different forms asking for lots of different things statically, instead of having a contact have to fill out 4 or 5 different forms just to get to the SQL stage, they can fill in 2, but still have the same amount of information because the forms we've built actually are progressive. and dynamic at the same time. So you're asking the right information based on who's viewing it, based on what they've already seen. And I definitely think that's something that a lot of people can take away today. So, Johnny, I don't know if you've got a question you want to ask the audience here.
Yeah, fingers at the ready, guys. The chat panel is open. This is the first question for your chance to win some HubSpot swag. What is the main purpose of subscription types? Is it A, assign legal basis of communication, B, assign customer contact details, or C, customer favorite topics? Now, first one to answer this correctly will be within the chance of getting some HubSpot swag.
We've got a winner, less than 20 seconds. Alia Sampaio Santos, you are the winner.
Winner from Brazil, well done.
Well.
Love that. There's a few more coming up, so again, keep your fingers close to the chat pane. Brill. So moving on, we're up to hack number 4. So we are nearly a quarter of the way through, or just over that, sorry, in terms of we are going into a data cleanse dashboard. So we've talked about campaigns, we've talked about reporting. Where we often find is as you scale, your data scales, your contact scale, and your conversion point scale as well. What's really important to avoid your HubSpot growing out of control is coming up with a practice which we call data cleansing. And the easiest way to do that is leveraging HubSpot's tools for data cleansing itself in the form of dashboards. If you already know or are yet to think about standardizing how you enter data, so what makes an SQL, what makes an MQL, what this allows you to do is it allows you to create a dashboard that flags up contacts who may be missing certain fields or may not have fields that you'd expect them to have at a certain stage. So for example, you may throw up a report based on contacts who, I don't know, don't have an associated company, which means that our email marketing won't be as effective. You may throw up a report which is how many contacts in our database are missing job title, which means we can't put them into ABM styles of targeting. Or it may be other aspects such as how many unsubscribes we've got from contacts based on the different subscription types that I mentioned on a previous slide. What this really allows you to do is it allows you to source new leads in real time from people you already know. So rather than going after new prospects who you're yet to know as a business, you can actually flag up data that's an inch away from being an SQL and getting them into the sales process just by having, whether it's a data administrator, whether it's a sales team, whether it's a BDM team, or whether it's just a marketing team that are hot on it, such as I know Meg is from our side, which is basically just looking through these dashboards and clearing up the data as it comes in and utilizing some of the features of dashboards to flag this up. So you can create your dashboard and then send a recurring email every week based on contacts where the data hygiene isn't as clean as we'd want it to be, and have a weekly cleansing task to make sure that your database is absolutely pristine, spotless, and up to date at any point. This allows you not only to have better visibility of your data and better understanding and control over the days to close, but it allows you to quickly be able to delegate this by already having the data there in front of you. So it'll pull up lists, it'll pull up contacts, and you can just work through them to get all the numbers down to 0 as well. So as you can see on there, some common examples: unsubscribes, contacts who haven't got a contact owner, contacts that may have been put in via import and don't yet have an email, which all can be sourced in terms of asking the sales team to reach out in terms of any communication means they already have, or just cleaning up the data that they're putting on a day-by-day scenario. We're up to hack number 5, and this is more tailored towards ABM and sales team. So I know, Johnny, you're a big fan of this one in terms of the prospect tool. So in terms of what the prospect tool is, this is a tool that, in fairness, doesn't get the attention that I believe it should do, because this actually allows you to go into HubSpot and quickly understand that contacts you're yet to know, but what companies are coming onto your website and how many sessions they're having and who's visiting. Why this is critical is when you're formulating an ABM strategy, rather than starting from scratch and start thinking up of ideal customer profiles in terms of who you want to work with, the prospect tool literally puts in front of you how many contacts or how many companies, should I say, are accessing your website, in how many page views that company's had on your website prior to them being known, how many sessions they've had, and ultimately when the last session was. which from me as a marketer's perspective, if I saw that, I don't know, Google was accessing the Protos website 85 times or Apple or something like that, I could reach out to Johnny and say, could you reach out to these companies? They seem highly engaged. And not only does that have to be a manual task, you can actually schedule this report to come into your inbox, whether it's daily, whether it's weekly, or at a different regular cadence, to understand whether it's every day, what new companies have come onto your website in the last 24 hours. This allows you to quickly understand who your warm prospects are that are actually engaging with your website that you wouldn't have known otherwise. And you can utilize all this data because of how HubSpot populates companies, which is via the insights database, meaning that you get powerful information via the tracking code on your website to tell you how big them companies are, how many numbers of employees, what the average turnover is, as well as being able to use them companies to formulate similar companies as well. So you could maybe leverage them companies, define an ICP, and then create lookalike audiences on the back of it, saying companies like these are already accessing our website. So therefore, we want to create an ad campaign targeting these similar characteristics to get net new companies to our website as well. So again, a really powerful, but I feel like underutilized tool, which can be found within the account-based marketing section of your HubSpot portal. I believe it should be a short link on the left-hand sidebar. Hack number 6. So we're up to the SEO tool now, and I know that a lot of people are familiar with the idea of topic clusters. So why don't you give the gift of simplifying that via the SEO tools within HubSpot? So HubSpot out of the box actually comes with a built-in SEO tool. Now, if you're familiar with topic clusters, you understand that you've got a root keyword and you've got subtopic keywords. But often what we find is people don't utilize it within the marketing and planning section, the SEO tool as a whole. Because not only does this allow you to see as on screen, where you can map out what your topic cluster looks like, but you can actually attach assets that you've created for that keyword and understand how much traffic is coming from that asset, which is then filtering down to the root keyword, and how big that topic is growing over time, which again formulates a compounding pillar page strategy. Now, where HubSpot takes this a step further, and where I feel like there's a lot of scope if you're not already doing this, is HubSpot integrates with Google Search Console. So the keywords that are being searched into Google, where you might not be able to pick this up into analytics, Search Console does get some visibility over that. And if you've connected your Search Console, you can actually see how much traffic roughly is coming to your website from HubSpot within HubSpot from the actual keywords. So we can see on screen, we've got inbound marketing as a root keyword. The monthly searches around that is 9,900 a month. And overall, we'll be able to track back the content performance on the back of that as well, meaning that I can quickly understand which topic clusters are actually driving my overall traffic. So where we had campaigns, to understand how campaigns performed, the SEO tools there to tell you how topic clusters are performing over time, because campaigns may be short-lived, but topic clusters are evergreen. And it's important to understand where that traffic's coming from in what proportion as well. And I believe what the best bit about this tool is it's very visual, it's very condensed, and it allows you to quickly understand if you've got a red link, it means you've only got a link that's pointing one way, meaning that if you've got a blog post that's pointing to your pillar page and it's in red, it means your pillar page isn't pointing back to your blog. And in best practice SEO, you need to make sure that everything that you do is reciprocally linking, meaning that the blog's linking to the pillar page is linking to the blog or the landing page, so on and so forth. Making sure that the user journey across your content is never broken and there's always a next step to be taken. And I really think that that's a quick thing to set up and retrospectively backdate as well. So yeah, I definitely think that's something to take a look at if you're not already doing so.
Right, chat panel open again for the second question of the day for your chance to win some HubSpot swag, guys. What is the main purpose of the prospect tool? A, see who converts on your website. B, see which companies visit your website but don't convert. C, see who mentions your website on social channels.
People were really hot on that one.
They want that HubSpot
I don't
swag.
think you'd even read the first answer out and it was already up. So yeah, we got John, you're the winner there, fastest first. Congrats.
Well done, John.
Well done. I'm pleased to know that people are engaged and actually taking in what I'm saying. That's the important thing from these slides. But moving on, I think we're on to 7. So we're in the We're over halfway now. So in terms of what life cycle stages are, I'm going to quickly go over this one, because whilst I believe that a lot of people understand how life cycle stages are used in HubSpot, I don't believe people understand necessarily how to utilize them or have a process behind it. And I think what's important to go through is that on the left-hand side there, you can see what the HubSpot journey is in terms of the different life cycle stages. It's important to note that lifecycle stages are a system field, so you can't customize these, unfortunately. These are how HubSpot defines the inbound methodology. But that's not to say that you can't have anecdotal internal definitions for what these actually are. But why these are important is when I often do portal audits or speak to prospects in terms of how they're utilizing HubSpot at the moment, typically they always talk to me about opportunities, customers, sessions, new contacts. That's great, but it doesn't tell me a bigger picture. And what that actually says to me is that's a very sales-driven funnel. Nothing wrong with that. It makes sense. I understand why it's done. But what happens when you're having a slower sales period? If you're not setting up SQL, MQL, lead, and subscriber, you don't understand what proportion of your database could just be nurtured onwards to, again, make better use of your existing contacts into existing prospects. And I think I mentioned it earlier in the actual deck. A lot of this comes back to it's much easier to convert an existing contact than it is to attract a new contact, because you've got to sell the brand, you've got to sell the ethos, you've got to sell the way of working. So by having these lifecycle stages, it allows you to have better buckets for your database segmentation and take those different aspects that we've gone over today in terms of a data cleanse dashboard, or being able to pinpoint where the proportion of your database is. So if you've got 100,000 contacts in your database, how many are subscribers, how many are leads, how many are MQLs, and how many are SQLs, and being able to do a funnel that's a full end-to-end journey, so you can start doing full big picture planning for 2022. That being said, people tend to use one or the other. Lifecycle stages, you can see on screen, it's great for scaling companies and organizations, so you can have up to 7 different categories there, an evangelist being a promoter by definition. But what that often does, and I know Prodo specifically, having 10,000 plus contacts in our database who are active in terms of managing that, sometimes them buckets are not yet nurtured enough, so they're not more as segmented as they want them to be. So there's nothing stopping you from using lead status in conjunction with lifecycle stage. So if you've got an SQL, you can mark a contact as an SQL, but there's nothing stopping you from using lead status to say what the status of that SQL is. So whether that's an SQL is a bad fit, whether that's an SQL not right time, whether that's an SQL still in consideration, because that gives you an added layer of segmentation to understand if I've got 4,000 contacts as SQL, what the composition is a layer below that. And that's what we did. Look, we retrospectively went over at Prodo our old data and understood how that sat, and ultimately looked at what the composition is. And that allows us to use them very two standardized properties in conjunction with each other to ensure we can do some really hyper relevant and contextual automation, marketing, and ultimately reporting on the back of it as well. I definitely think that if you need a leg up, there's lots of resources that we have done, there's lots of resources that HubSpot have done, and lead scoring can come definitely into this to help you automate some of these stage movements as well. I think that leads us quite nicely onto the persona feature in HubSpot. So HubSpot personas, they kind of go hand in hand. It's seamless in terms of that experience. Personas drive inbound marketing. Now, what a lot of people aren't aware is actually within your HubSpot account, there is actually a section within your properties called persona, where you can actually develop profiles within that. What that allows you to do is, rather than having personas as a standalone document that sits on a drive somewhere, which you know anecdotally what your personas are, you can manage your personas actually within HubSpot, meaning that you can set up your profiles within the persona property in your account, where you can have an image, a bio, a URL, some characteristics like you would normally do on a slide deck or PDF, whatever, however you manage your personas at the moment. Why that's important is by going into those settings and setting up that actual property, is you can then start reporting on your database composition by persona. Using in conjunction with your lifecycle stages, your data cleansing, your subscriptions, you can combine that to make really powerful reports. So not just if I've got 10,000 contacts, how many is MD Mike, how many is Assistant Andrea. That's great. But then what you can do is take that a step further by looking at okay, if 10,000 contacts in our database and 4,000 are SQLs, what's the composition of persona by SQL compared to when we look at MQLs, what the composition is? So is there a handoff in our customer's buyer's journey? Is it an assistant that researches our educational content that then passes it to an MD to go into the sales process if it's a smaller organization? And what I'm trying to say there is you can start painting a picture in terms of that segmentation and where the handoff necessarily happens just by setting up that one property in your HubSpot account. It will take you, if anything, 5 minutes to set up, and it allows you to get started in terms of assigning contacts to certain personas as well. And it's a really good high level and visual overview of who the people you're speaking to from the companies you may have identified in the prospect tool as well. And I think I've mentioned automation quite a lot here. So again, go through a lot of automation. I mentioned automation. I recommend a lot of automation. And again, just because you can automate doesn't mean you should. But I think if you can automate and you are automating, you should at least be able to assess how successful a workflow or automation string necessarily is. Now, within a workflow, you'll be familiar with setting up enrollment, setting up triggers, setting up different actions to happen within it. But what happens if someone's going through that workflow and they've done the desired action? The answer being, very shortly, is if someone goes into the workflow and you've not set up a goal, they will continue to go through all the actions. So if I've set up an automation to say that someone hasn't responded to my previous couple of emails and I want to send them some resources, I may set the goal based on last activity date being within the last day. So as soon as they hit that, they'll become unenrolled. Now, without a workflow goal, they will continue to go through it, even if anecdotally they meet the criteria that I've got in my head. So rather than having to manually understand who goes into my workflow or when did it come out and building workflows that are interdependent on each other, which isn't the easiest in HubSpot, using workflow goals is really powerful because, for example, it might be a nurturing workflow saying getting MQLs to SQL, and the goal may be I want to track how successful this workflow is based on if they've ever been enrolled in it and they become an SQL, meaning that if the sales team mark them as an SQL and they're halfway through the workflow, they will unenroll because they don't need to get spoken to like they're an MQL because the sales team have profiled them. And that's why it's important to have goals, not just for the unenrollment aspect of it, but then so on your performance page of your workflows, you can see how many people were enrolled, how many people are currently being enrolled in terms of active within the workflow, and then how many contacts were successful and met the goal. So you can start reporting on workflows in terms of the conversion of this workflow, whether it was external, whether it was internal, was 4% of the 100 people that went in it. And you can start reporting back on that. And that's really powerful for any kind of marketing manager that's saying, we spent, 16 hours in setting up this lost opportunities automation to help shorten the days to close. Having that percentage to help you report allows you to report in seconds on how effective that workflow may have actually been, and ultimately how many contacts you've successfully managed the unenrollment of that you wouldn't otherwise have had the ability to do so. So again, a really, really powerful feature that I don't see used often enough.
There it is again, guys. Last chance now. This is the last question of the day. Your chance to win some HubSpot swag. Where can you build personas in HubSpot? A, in marketing files. B, in sales documents. C, in properties. And I know people answered that question way before I even read it out. So who's the winner, Meg?
Winner is Nick with number C, letter C, in properties is where you find it. Well done, Nick.
Well done, Nick.
Well
Thank you for engaging, everybody.
Yeah.
Playing
Great
along.
stuff. So you'll please know we're in the final leg of this, guys, and I hope you've got some value out of it today. So hack number 10. So we're into the more advanced ones now. HubSpot's prime selling point is the ability to create intuitive drag and drop assets, creating assets for any marketer, any sales professional can do within minutes. But people often forget that on the back of HubSpot, whilst it is a drag and drop editor and it's got a whole database on the back of it. And what I've talked to you today is reports, lists, personas, all this data to get the best out of your actual CRM. You can leverage that and make your content dynamic. So rather than creating 8 different landing pages based on where they maybe are in the buyer's journey, you can create one landing page with just smart content, which detects where that individual user is within their journey. So what you can actually do is with the modules you're adding onto your landing page, whether that's a hero banner, for example, or it's a form on a landing page, you can interchange the module depending on certain CRM aspects that content may have. But not only that, so an example of using smart content may be, I might put smart content on my homepage if I've got my website built with HubSpot CMS. So instead of saying, welcome to Prodo, if I know that person already and they've been on my website before, I may create a rule based on email is known and number of sessions is greater than 1. Change the hero banner to say, welcome back, Samuel. That makes really powerful, intuitive, dynamic decisions for you to maximize CRO. And all you have to do is set it up once. And the rule will there live on and constantly profile and assess what visitor gets what. Now, what we also think is, and a lot of objections to this is, we don't have enough intuitive data to suggest what rules we create. We don't collect enough information in CRM. That's fine as well. So you may actually have different international or different domains geographically. So you can actually create rules based on the country that prospect is accessing as well. You could do it on device type. So if they're on Apple, if they're on an Android device, you can customize the different offers they may see on screen, or what source or list they may come from as well. This is really powerful, and it's hidden in the actual left-hand sidebar whenever you create a drag and drop editor. It's highlighted by a little cube, but it's really important. It will save you so much time rather than creating 8 different assets for different potential journeys that people may take for that same aspect. Just use smart content. It's so powerful because then you can report on how that module performs based on the different rules you've set up as well. And I think that's a key selling point as to why people look at HubSpot, but then when they go into HubSpot, they often forget to actually roll it out because they're so overwhelmed with how good some of the other tools may necessarily be. Hack number 11, we're going to talk about the meetings tool. It's going to be relatively straightforward. So I see this a lot. I see a lot of sales team that use HubSpot. I see a lot of marketing teams that use HubSpot, but I often don't see a lot of meetings links that makes it onto HubSpot. And it does astound me at times because the meetings for a bottom of the funnel or decision phase conversion offer, it's so convenient for your prospects. You can embed these meeting links on your website, on your landing pages, on your blogs, anywhere where your tracking code is, or you want to put an embed link on, you can actually put the meetings tool on there. That allows cross prospects to book in time with you when they're ready to speak with you. So you're already putting the customer first before they've even converted on your website. They know your availability. They know when they can book in a meeting. They know they can specify how long they need a meeting for. It allows leads to actually come directly to you rather than you having to go out and source times and scheduling for other people. A lot of people use meeting links just for an email marketing sense in terms of one-to-one communication. There's nothing stopping you from putting these on your website. Absolutely nothing. And you can also set these up so it's round robin as well. So if you've got a sales team, you can round robin who that meeting goes to based on availability. You can actually customize it based on the type of page it is. And you can use this in conjunction with smart content. And I really hope someone takes this away in terms of setting up a module which is smart, which says that if they are a bottom of the funnel contact, so they're an MQL, SQL, rather than having an ebook form, you could maybe change that at the bottom of your page to a meetings tool, because then you're encouraging conversation rather than someone taking a download. And this is how you use these tools in conjunction to connect together what could be disparate features within HubSpot as well. Use this in conjunction with smart content. It's so powerful, and use it for shared inboxes, use it for shared meeting calendars. Use all these tools together going into 2022 because it's so powerful when you start using the system when all the different tools are speaking to each other. And I guess the last question is, if you've got all these tools kind of linked up together and they're speaking to each other, how do you know which one's doing the best in terms of all the inputs you're doing? Hack number 12, which is attribution reporting. This is something that's quite recent in HubSpot. They released attribution reporting roughly within the last 12 months. They've really built it out. If you're on enterprise, you have deal creation and revenue attribution, which is really, really powerful. If you're on Pro or under, you will probably have access to the contact creation. It's by no means any different. It just means that you can attribute only on contacts being created rather than deal and revenue. So if you're looking at deal and revenue attribution, you'll probably need enterprise. But why this is important is you're getting all this data, you're segmenting your database, you're connecting all these tools. It's important to know of the effort you're putting in over the next year, where the value is coming out the other end of. What we do at Prodo is we do a lot of revenue attribution. We do a lot of deals within the year. We need to understand which companies have closed the most in terms of the amount. So we know obviously how to formulate customer service strategies. But then on the back of that, we need to know what assets a company may have touched within that inquiry. So if we closed a £250,000 deal, how much of that revenue came from their time spent on landing pages versus website pages versus meeting links versus integrations? Because then we know that if this company converts, just this one company, we need to be doing a lot more of this individual asset. On the flip side of that, if you're on Pro, like if you have an attribution report based on contacts being created, if we know that most of our contacts are coming through meetings links as opposed to forums, I want to be creating a lot more meetings links within reason and putting them and using them in conjunction with smart content based on where they sit on the website journey. So again, attribution reporting is that last kind of piece of the mince pie, if we're using the festive reference there, in terms of understanding essentially of all these different things that we're rolling out in these hacks, how they all come together to formulate a strategy. And I think that's what I wanted to get across today is use attribution, look at multi-touch, and use all these different hacks together to maximize going into the new year. And there you have it. That's the 12 days of HubSpot hacks from my point of view.
Yeah, thanks, Sam, and thanks for dropping in a Christmas reference there. There you have it, 12 hacks, tips, and tools that will really help you to make the most out of your HubSpot portal. Remember to head to prodo.com/hug if you haven't already to let us know if you'd like access to any of these slides and the recording to watch back. Also, keep an eye out on our social channels too, as we'll be sharing additional content for each one over the next 12 days. Let us know in the chat panel if you're using any of these hacks already and what your favorite is. Don't be shy, guys. Put it in the chat panel.
What would you say is your favorite one, Sam?
I hate this question.
You must have known I was going to ask.
All of them.
I know, because you asked for on every hug. I would say I'm a massive fan of the prospect tool and the data cleansing. I think the input's just as important as the output. So being able to see, it saves so much time just by using those tools because you've got the data in front of you rather than brainstorming it from scratch, in my opinion.
Yeah.
How about you, Meg? What's yours?
I struggle as well because I think your point, Sam, about putting them all together is invaluable, and I think they all work really well in conjunction with each other. I think at Prodo, we've probably the life cycle stages and implementing that alongside lead status has just meant that we've got such a better view and handle of our database, and we can just do so much more with what we've got, and tailoring the comms, segmentation. But I'd also say the personas with that as well, being able to add that layer on. Again, it's just meant that we can really, really think about what we're sending, who we're sending it to. So yeah, I would choose those two, I think. What about you, Johnny?
I think from a sales point of view, I've found the meetings tool to be really handy in the emails I'm sending out. So in a previous role to this previous company, we didn't have HubSpot, and it was such a faff trying to like arrange a time to speak, like what's your availability, checking my availability, and just going back and forth with email. It's just really nice and simple. You just put a link, you say like, just want 50 minutes to speak. You put your link there, they can click on, see your availability, and book the time straight into your calendar. It just works seamlessly. It's been a real blessing in my job.
Yeah, that is a very handy tool. I love embedding it on the website as well, to be fair. I think it's got a lot of value in use cases. We've got lots of different people coming in, chiming in with all their favorite ones. A lot of love for smart content, which I think is, again, a great tool, which has got so much opportunity. Data cleanse dashboard. We've got a content article coming out on that as well about how to build one step by step. So keep your eyes peeled for that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So if you've got any specific questions around anything we've discussed today, now's your chance to get your answer. whether you're not sure how to implement any of these tools, or maybe you're already using some of them, but you're not sure how to get the most from it. So take it away in the chat if you have any questions around any of these hacks today.
I don't think we've had any throughout the session. I'm just going to quickly try and scroll through. There's a lot going on in the chat, which is lovely to see. Thank you for engaging so much, everyone.
Really good.
We had one about the data cleanse dashboard, but I think that's something that I think it's a question for them. Would you guys benefit from us giving you a templated kind of view on what that should look like in terms of standard properties? If the chat's interested in that, it's something we can send out as an after event asset. It's definitely something we set up and saw immediate value.
Yeah, and as I say, there is going to be a kind of generic kind of overview of how to go about building one step by step, but we're definitely on hand if you want to kind of get a little bit more in depth with where you can go with that, because there's so much you can do with that kind of dashboard. Other than that, I don't think we've had any other questions, so I think, yeah, move on.
Yeah.
Thanks, Johnny.
Yeah, we've covered a lot today around different areas of HubSpot platform, but really we've just hit the tip of the iceberg. We do provide a portal audit to dig even deeper into how your business is using the tools within HubSpot at present. This is a free service that we offer. We want to help you guys make the most of your HubSpot investment. If you'd like a member of our team at Proda to perform the portal audit health check, there will be a link in the chat panel for you now. Thanks, Meg. Thanks for listening and taking the time to attend today's session. We really do appreciate it. This is the last of our HubSpot User Group sessions that we'll be hosting this year, and we'll be going through an application process for 2022. So hopefully we'll be back virtually in the new year. But again, thank you for all your support and for coming along to these sessions. They're a big part of growing HubSpot user base and helping everyone make the most of all the incredible things the platform has to offer. As always, if you have any questions, reach out to the team here at Prodo and we'll be happy to help. So that's it for today. Have a great rest of your day and a very Merry Christmas, and we'll see you soon in the new year. See you guys.
Thank you, everyone.